Hey, good morning everybody. It's Brian. Hope you're doing well. Gonna get started this morning for the Forex update. I will be doing the futures update here in, I guess about an hour. But for right now, I'm gonna get Forex out of the way because obviously our new US and Canadian Forex sessions are beginning in about 10 minutes. So let's jump in here. What we're gonna do is have a look at what news is coming up that we should be aware of, and then have a look at which currencies are moving and could potentially be paired together and why for a quick breakout as the news session begins. All right, so let's start over here with news. I think it's important to always look at what news is coming up. Again, I mention this every day, but I'll always mention it just to hammer it home. We want to know what news is coming up, not so much as so that we can watch the news and click refresh over here and see what the outcome is so that we can quote, trade the news. For me, it's more about just knowing what pitfalls are coming up so that we can avoid it. And if I've got high impact news, like the red reports here, that gives me a time of day that maybe I can say, hey, I've got news coming up, especially if it's first thing in the morning, maybe I should start my trading day a little bit later, wait for the news to happen, and then start my trading day post news. Or if we're in the middle of a trade and we have news coming up, then that might allow me to either A, take my profit, or if I've got a loss, cut those losses and wait for news to occur, then come back into the market after that. Or if I've got a longer term trade, maybe I can tighten up stops or whatever it might be so that I can live through that news announcement. So anyway, with that said, what news is coming up? I've got unemployment claims at 7:30. It's medium impact. It's not a high impact day like a non-farm payroll would be, but it is could be potentially impactful for us. We want to be aware of that. I don't think we'll see that typical big widening of spreads that we often see around news. Remember, another reason that we don't trade news is because, especially with the high impact, oftentimes what we get is our spreads might go from 1 or 2 pips up to a 12, 15, 18 pip spread, and that can be dangerous if we're trading on lower time frames with tighter stops. That can, obviously just that change in where the market makers are willing to do business with the bid and the ask spread, that can suddenly trigger your stop loss and even maybe slip you as you exit that trade. So I don't really see that happening with today's news, but do be aware of it. I mean, if spreads start to go crazy, you might want to make adjustments there if you're in a trade. If you're not in a trade, wait for that to return to normal and then look for your trading opportunities after that. But I'm going to look at breakouts right at the new market session today because I don't think, even though it's medium impact, I don't think we'll have a huge impact from spreads on this unemployment claims piece here. So I'm fine with trading breakouts this morning. So what breakouts am I looking at? Well, we're going to go over here to the currency strength meter, and we're going to have a look at which currencies are strong and which ones are weak. That'll give us the idea of what we can pair together. We don't want to just blindly look at 1 or 2 currency pairs. We want to find the ones that are actually moving. Now, we are limited, obviously, because we want to try to trade the currency pairings that are being actively traded during the hours that we're in the day. So, for me, Aussie, New Zealand, currency pairings, they're not as actively traded right now as the US session begins as they would have been during the London session or during the Asian session, right? So those Aussie and New Zealand pairings are out for me. So I'm looking over here to see more of what's happening with the euro, what's happening with the pound, what's happening with the CAD, the USD, the Swissy. Although I don't really favor the Swissy a lot just because of the 8 majors, it is one of the lower traded currencies. It's not there's not as much volume and activity there as in others. So today, yesterday we were looking at some Canadian cross pairs. Today we've actually got some opportunity here on the euro versus the USD. We can see the euro has been moving to strength. That's the pink line here. Strength, weakness. The pink line here moving down. So it's been selling off. We've had some selling activity on the euro, so it's definitely weakening against our other currencies, as is the pound. The pound has been a weak currency for the day as well so far. So both the euro and the pound are weak currencies. So we could look to pair those against stronger currencies. And the strong currencies we're looking at here, we've got the Canadian, which definitely is a stronger currency for the day so far. It's pulling back as we're coming up to the new session. We've also got the USD. The USD has been pretty steady as a stronger currency. So we could look at euro versus the USD or even pound versus the USD to see what sort of opportunities we have over here. Now, if we switch on, and we don't want to just blindly trade any one thing, if we pop over here, I don't know why that's up. We should be seeing the other side of my trading terminal here. Let's see if we can do this another way. There we go. All right. So sorry about that. So looking over here at the Euro USD, we can see that the Euro USD, it's moved so far for the day 50 pips. Its average is about 65 to 70. So there's a little bit of opportunity there for a quick breakout in the morning as we first get started. We'd be looking over here to see, obviously, first, how much opportunity there is for movement. Then also we want to see that the volume detail supports the direction that we'd be trading. So we'd be selling the euro versus the USD, and the market does support that. How about the pound versus the USD? That might be a better opportunity for us. The pound versus the USD, it's moved 70 pips, and its average is about 125. So, there's probably more opportunity in the pound versus the USD than in the euro versus the USD. So, both look like, both are diverging from one another. The USD is strengthening, the euro and the pound are both weakening. So we have two potential pairings that we can choose from. We have the euro or the pound versus the USD. I would choose the pound over the euro just because it's a little bit more volatile. And we can see that here looking at, our ranges for the day versus the average. There is definitely more volatility, and there's more range left in the pound versus the USD. So if we're looking for a quick hit in order to be able to get like a quick 20 pips out of a opening session breakout, I think the opportunity is better for us here on the pound versus the USD than the euro. So as the new market session begins, that blue breakout box will paint here on the chart. I'll be able to click sell, and we'll look to see if it breaks out the bottom of that box, and from there, hopefully gives us the opportunity to move into some quick profit. Again, what am I looking at for this? Looking at divergence. Pound is being sold. The USD is bought. So we have a weak currency versus a strong currency. We weighed out two. We weighed out the euro and the pound versus the USD. We're choosing the pound because it's a little bit more volatile. We can see that here by looking at our current range versus the average range. And then we're confirming the direction by looking at our volume detail to see that our current volume would support the selling of that instrument as well. All right, so that's it. I will talk to you guys later, and we'll be back here in about an hour for the futures market update. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great day.